All right. Uh, Good morning, afternoon, evening, whatever it may be, everyone. Time for another video. Now, in the past few days, I've been getting some questions regarding the next essay, and I've been answering them. I'm just want to go over this for everyone, just in case you are not one of the people asking the questions, but may have a similar question or concern. Um, Now, one thing that I've noticed is some of the questions that I've been getting, and this is fine, I just want to make sure that you guys know this, but I'm pretty sure that the questions that I'm getting asked have already been answered for the most part in the videos. So, and again, I don't mind answering questions at all. It's not just part of my job. I enjoy it. I do not mind it in the least. But just I want to reiterate that it's very important for you all to watch these videos that I'm making. They're very similar to what we would be doing if we were in the classroom. Obviously, there'd be a lot more back and forth, which I truly miss. I love being in front of y'all so that we can just, instead of having to text and email and all that back and forth, we can just stay after, before class, or during class and just answer them. But just make sure that you guys are watching the videos. There's, I think there's good information in there, so hopefully there is. But just make sure to watch these. That's all. That's all I'm saying. Now, I am going to try to answer some of them more specifically in this video, and I'm going to go over exactly what we're supposed to be doing for this next essay. Now, if you're in a Monday, Wednesday, Friday class, your first draft is due on Wednesday, and that will be the 26th. And if you're in the Tuesday, Thursday class, they'll be due on the 27th. So make sure you have an idea where you're going and that you get something in the works. Now, the assignment sheet that is up on D2L currently gives you several options, and they're the options that I've described in the previous two videos. Now, one of the questions that I got that I think is very important that I need to go over in specific detail is someone asked me if they could write this essay in the second person, and I said no. And I explained it to them, in the text, but I don't think I've been clear enough as to why the second person is for these types of essays. I'm not saying never use the second person, okay? And I'm going to explain what it is and use my little Microsoft Word document over here to show you. But I'm not saying that it is never appropriate. I'm going to show you examples, specific examples, which I always ask you guys to do, so I should be able to do it too. Um, I'm going to show you some specific examples where second person is used for a very clear purpose. Okay, now remember, audience, purpose, those are two of the most important things to keep in mind when you're writing an essay. So I'm going to go over for the first part of this class, I'm going to go over why you should not use the second person in these essays. And I'm also going to go over first, second, and third person briefly, because for this essay, you're allowed to use first person. However, you're also allowed to use third person if you want to. Now, you should already know, you should already be very familiar with what first person is. So, first person is basically, your pronouns are basically going to be I, me, my, and then, him, her, his, hers, It's all that's first person. Now, second person is the troublesome one. You, your, yours. Now, that's the one that I don't want you to use. Now, if you're using dialogue, which means somebody speaking, okay, that's what I mean by dialogue. So if you've seen that in your essays, don't use second person unless it's dialogue. I think I wrote that on a lot of essays because a lot of you were slipping into second person. If someone is speaking, they are going to use second person. It's natural. You are talking to someone. Right now I am talking to you, the viewer, the people that are watching this. So I am using the second person because I am speaking directly to you. So for instance, if I ask someone, I would say you. Okay, so in dialogue, second person is not only is acceptable, it's pretty much appropriate. Now, third person is where you use more or less proper nouns, like Janice instead of she, or I, or whatever. You would use the proper noun when you're using the third person. So that's acceptable for almost anything. Of course, you wouldn't use it in dialogue, you know, when you were talking to someone. Like, I wouldn't say, if I was talking to my best friend, I wouldn't say, you know, what does JT think? That would be just weird. Be like a David Lynch movie or something. Haha. Obscure reference. If you get it, you get it. If you don't, that's fine. But if I was talking to him, my best friend, I would say, "What do you think, man?" Or something like that. I wouldn't say, "What does JT think?" That's just odd, you know. And when you're referring to yourself, you usually use first person. Well, I don't think that's a very good idea. I wouldn't say, unless I was, you know, being stupid on purpose or just being a weirdo, I'd be, Jeremy does not think that's a very good idea. That's weird. Yeah, and weird's, I mean, not that weird is bad, but that's just it's something that most of us wouldn't do. Okay, so third person is where you use the proper forms and you stay away from I, me, my, you, your, and yours. Now, in certain things, third person can be more effective. I'm not going to say better because none of these are in any stretch better than the other. It's just they're for different purposes. They're more effective. Okay, and your job when you're writing these essays, one of your goals or your main goal should be to be as effective as possible. Because remember, this analysis evaluation is persuasive. You're trying to persuade people to agree with your judgment. You know, if you're doing a movie review, which based on some of the questions I've been getting, I'm assuming that a lot of you are going to be doing some kind of movie review, and that's fine. I love movies. I love reading reviews about movies. So you are going to try to be as persuasive as possible to get the audience to agree with your evaluation. And you're not going to be able to evaluate at all or effectively without analyzing. Okay, so that's why I'm going to go over why you shouldn't use the second person in your essays, at least for these essays. I'm not saying in any essays. First of all, what's a big issue that many people have with the second person is it can come off like you are telling someone else what they think. Now, a lot of people, I'm not going to say everybody because everybody is a 100% absolute, but a lot of people, including me, myself, I don't like people to tell me what I think. Now, if somebody says, well, this is what you should think, I'll be like, yeah, okay, yeah, well, I don't, so bugger off. But that's why advertisers and advertisements themselves use second person, because the goal of advertising is to get you to believe what it's asking, believe what it's claiming, to buy the product. That's advertising has one basic purpose, and that is to persuade you to do something. The advertisers want to tell you what to think. They want to tell you what's good. They want to tell you that their product is the best. They want to tell you that you need to pull out your wallet, get your card, log into your Amazon, whatever, and buy their stuff. That's what advertising is for. So of course they use second person, and second person is more, can come across as more personal, because you, the viewer, the reader, whatever capacity, you are being directly addressed. Okay, so if they can tell you what you think, we've all heard those myths about, subliminal advertising. Maybe it's real, maybe it isn't, I don't know. But they'll certainly try it. And if it's going to get you to give your money to them, then of course they're going to do it. And using second person in advertising is effective. It's been proven effective. Otherwise, guess what? They wouldn't do it. They've been doing it since the beginning. They will do it yesterday. They do it today. They'll do it tomorrow. So this is the main reason why I do not want you guys using second person in this essay. You can use first person because at the end of the day, this is your opinion. So basically, what this is it's subjective. An argument is always subjective. If subjective means opinion-based. Objective means fact-based. Now, when you're trying to persuade someone, you have to be subjective. Why do I say that? Because subjective is opinion-based. That does not mean you can't use facts to back up your opinion. You can use facts, statistics, data, everything. But at the end of the day, if something is subjective, an argument is subjective. An argument is always subjective. If it does not have opinion in it, it's not an argument. If it's completely 100% objective, then it is nothing but facts. There is no opinion in it, which is why, when people expect all journalists to be completely objective, well, that's almost impossible if you think about it. You have to have an opinion on some event that you're reporting about. Now, you should not alter or ignore the facts, or completely disregard the facts, and then at that point you're just making something up. But all arguments at the end of the day have to be subjective. So when you're using second person, it becomes deceptive, because you are literally telling your readers what they think. Okay, which again, that is why advertisers use it. Advertising is almost by deception is a big portion of advertisement, if you guys think about it. Okay, so keep that in mind. Now I'm going to show you a couple of images here of second person being used in advertisements. So the first one I'm going to show you here is, this is an old ad. This is probably from early mid 80s. This is for Rolex, okay? And we all know, ooh, Rolex, big expensive watch, ha ha ha. But look at their advertisements. Now, part of advertising also is knowing your audience. Now, what I'm doing right here, sort of, if you think about it, just showing you this as an example, I'm actually analyzing this and evaluating it, which is what y'all will be doing in your essay. So if we look here, it says you. So it's talking to the reader. It's talking to whoever is seeing this advertisement right now. And it says, if you were flying the Concorde tomorrow, you'd wear a Rolex. Do you see how that's directive? They're telling you what you would be doing. Okay? Now, and just in case anyone doesn't know, the Concorde is this, I don't even know if it still flies. They had a horrible accident with one, not, it's actually many years ago now, but it was a supersonic passenger jet. In other words, it could break the sound barrier. So it could fly from, you know, like New York to London, literally 3 times as fast as a 747. And it was, you know, the ultimate in luxury flying. You know, only the super wealthy and the ultra privileged, and it was a status symbol. You know, if you say, oh, well, I think I'm going to go over to jolly old London this weekend, and I think I'll just fly the Concorde. I don't have a lot of time to waste. You know, that kind of thing. It's a high status symbol, and if even if you guys don't care one way or the other about luxury watches, Rolex is a status symbol. You know, it's like, ooh, that guy's got a Rolex or that gal's got a Rolex. They must be really, you know, it's a status symbol. It's like driving a Porsche or something, um, or a midlife crisis, whatever you want to call it. So they're comparing this ultimate luxury jetliner that very few people can actually fly on. Not only just because it's exclusive, you know, even if you could afford it, your chances of getting a ticket would be relatively small, because it's not like they have 10,000 of them like they do Delta airline jets or something like that. It's a very exclusive club. So what they're doing is they're saying, if you were flying the Concorde tomorrow, you'd wear a Rolex. In other words, if you are this sophisticated, and I'm not saying that people that do this are, I'm saying this is what the advertisers want you to think. You know, if you are this sophisticated and important and of such a high status, so much better than everybody else, you're not going to get on the Concorde wearing some Seiko like a loser. You're going to be wearing a Rolex like a winner. And that's what advertisements do. They puff the people up that are reading them. They want you to think, whoa, maybe if I spend, and you know, this is a very old ad, but that particular Rolex right there, even, you know, you'd have to buy it used now, but that exact model would probably cost about between $9,000 and $10,000 for a wristwatch. So that's a lot of money. So they're like basically telling you, no matter what, if you've got that Rolex on your wrist, people are going to look at you differently and think that you're something special. So that's where the second person becomes very effective, is in advertising. They want you to think what they're telling you to think. And they want it to look personal, like you are being addressed directly. Now, it's effective, apparently, or they wouldn't still be doing it. And they do it all the time. And here's another example right here. And I'll just move this one over. On top of the Rolex. Now this is a whole different ball game right here. This is an entirely different audience, but it's the same exact tactic. The first one is obviously aimed for people who have a whole lot more money than I do. Now I can afford a Big Mac. I don't want one, but if I did, I'm telling y'all, I'm telling y'all, I could hop in my car right now. That's how I'm rolling. I could go right to the drive-thru, and I could even buy like 2 Big Macs. That's how good I am. But anyway, look, do you see, this isn't even hiding it. This is telling you what you think. The thing you want when you order a salad. and there's a picture of this gigantic Big Mac. And honestly, y'all, if any of you have ever ordered a Big Mac and opened it up and it looked like that, I hope you took a picture of it, because generally it's all smashed down, the lettuce is brown and stuff shooting out the side. But anyway, you see what, hopefully you see my point, is they are literally telling you what you think. And it's also playing on your insecurities. The same thing with the Rolex watch, with the Rolex ad. They are playing on the readers, the viewers, the audience. They're playing on their on your insecurities to try to get you to purchase their product. Oh, now this one's probably just, I'm going to go do a little analysis here. This one is most, without question, this McDonald's ad is targeted towards men. And I'm not being sexist. I guarantee you, when the advertising agency was cutting this thing together, they were saying they were targeting it towards men or masculinity. You don't want a salad, you want a Big Mac, something that you can carnivore, blah, blah. You know, something like that. Oh, don't settle for a salad. You want meat, you want... That's how they do it. They play on your insecurities. The same thing here. You know, somebody who, and you all know this as a fact for sure, is that people will put themselves in horrible amounts of debt to buy something that is a status symbol, something that could really put a big damper on the rest of their lives, on their rent. You know, how many people do you know that spend a whole lot of money on a car they can't afford, or they'll live in substandard conditions to buy something that they think is going to make other people think they're something, some more important. That's why they call these status symbols, like super expensive watches. Now, that's not the only reason people buy them. I love watches. I love mechanical watches. I wouldn't buy one for a status symbol. I buy them because I think they're fascinating and I think they're beautiful. But they're targeting people's insecurities. Hey, if you want people to just be able to look at you and see that you're somebody who means something, you got to have this Rolex. This is a Seiko, by the way. You got to have this Rolex on your wrist. And people fall for it. They wouldn't do it if it didn't work. So this is why in advertising, the second person is super effective. You don't want a salad. They're trying to plant a seed and to make you think that you're not thinking correctly, that something you're doing is wrong. Oh, well, I guess if I can get that Rolex, then I'll be on the Concorde. Whatever, it doesn't matter. It's directed specifically to the person who is viewing it. And it's also playing on emotions. It's playing on insecurities, on desires. You know, the advertisers use the second person all the time to try to tap into our desires. You will never have a better time than you will when you come to our place. Like, I could think of a whole mess of places that I'd have more fun at, but they don't want you to think that. They don't want you to think. They want to tell you what to think. So, second person for dialogue, perfect, because that's how people talk. But when you are writing a persuasive essay or an evaluation, no, because if you are using second person in your evaluation analysis, guess what you're doing? Oops, I forgot where the S was. You are advertising. Your essay, your review becomes an endorsement. I don't want to read a long advertisement / endorsement for something. Now, if you really, really, truly just cannot speak highly enough of what it is you're evaluating, then by all means. But nothing is perfect. Okay, so everything is going to have its drawbacks. You have to acknowledge the drawbacks of whatever it is you're evaluating. Now you can give it a glowing review. Even a 10 out of 10 has something that could possibly be improved upon. If it's an honest, real honest review. You know, nothing is totally perfect. Now you could say near perfect, but nothing is 100% perfect. So if all your thing is, and it goes the opposite way too. If your review turns out to be 100% great with an exclamation point, you're probably not being honest. You are, that's an advertisement, that's an endorsement. Now, if your evaluation is 100% negative, where there's not even one redeeming quality, not even one thing that's even passes even the minimal, the lowest possible standard, if you're just 100% negative, then I don't even have a better word to use right now. That's just going to make you look like a hater. So you got to be, you have to be subjective because it is your opinion. But if it's 100% one way or the other, 100% positive or 100% negative, you're not being subjective. Because there's very little, and I'm not, again, see, I'm not being 100% absolute. There are very, very, very few things in our lives that are 100% negative. Even the worst experiences that we have, we can benefit from. Okay? I know this. I know this from hardcore experience. Some of the absolute worst things that have happened to me in my life, I've done good from I've improved myself or my situation from these horrible things that have happened. So while the event may have been 100% negative, I still got something positive out of it, if that makes any sense. I hope that does make sense. But again, if your review is 100% awesome, it's just the best, the cat's pajamas, nothing better, you're just a, hopefully you're getting paid for it or something. Because if you're doing it for free, that's what we call, well, I'm not going to say it. Because I don't want to get in trouble. If it's 100% negative, just totally 100% negative, then you're just a hater, for lack of a better term. But it's going to look bitter. It's going to make you look like a bitter, sour person. It's going to, 100% negative review makes the person doing the review look a lot worse than whatever it is that they're reviewing. Okay, so keep that in mind. And I don't really know if there's anything else I need to go over right now, but just keep that in mind, okay? I can see why some of you would want to use the second person because it's so natural, because when you're writing, you feel like you are talking to someone sometimes, so you want to use you, but don't do it. Not for this one. Not from here on out, actually. Not for any of the remaining essays. Don't use it. Now, to recap, in dialogue, yes, in dialogue, second person is okay because dialogue literally means, dia means two. Log basically means speak. So if there's a dialogue, two people, or two or more people are having a conversation. A monologue, mono means one, is only one person. Now, when you have a monologue, like for instance in a book or a play, if it's called a dramatic monologue, or a soliloquy, if it's super, super long, those use the first person because in a monologue, you are talking to yourself. So you would use the first person. I'm not going in there. You know, we might not say it out loud, but when we talk, you know, everybody talks in their head, you know, and usually it's in the first person. Well, I don't think I want to go over there. You don't say, well, I wouldn't say, Jeremy doesn't think that's a very good idea, so Jeremy's not going to go over there. Jeremy sounds like an idiot because Jeremy's using the third person to talk about Jeremy. You see what I mean? So first person, I, me, mine. You can use it for this essay. Second person, you, your, yours. Don't. Stay away from it. Third person, if you want to use third person, go for it. Now, I do actually have one more thing to show you. Usually I would have you all do this in class, but we're not in class. So this is an example of how you can turn first person into third person and how it sounds more official, sort of. So if we look at this first example here, it says, let me see if I can blow this up a little bit. There we go. So let's look at this first example. This is in first person, okay? I can confidently state that this is a great film for families everywhere, and I highly recommend seeing it soon. Okay, so that would be an example of my final judgment. Now, of course, if that was my thesis, it would be, I'd include why. This is a great film for families everywhere because of the blank, blank, and blank, and I highly recommend seeing it soon. That's my final judgment. That's my evaluation in a thesis statement right there. Now, in the third person, I get rid of all that and just say, this is a great film for families everywhere and is highly recommended. Do you see how that sounds more objective, even though it's actually not objective? So third person gives the illusion of objectivity, but it's not necessarily objective. Now let's see. Here's another one I'll show you real quick. Let's blow this up real quick. Okay, so in first person, and this is just an example I used when I lived out in Vegas. So I can easily catch a cab anywhere on the Strip, but I sometimes have trouble in Summerlin. Okay, that's me just saying what I can. Now, if I want to turn it into the third person, one, this right here, that is a third person pronoun. And it can replace I. You can replace I in any sentence with one. The only risk is that if you start overusing it, if your entire essay is just one can do this, one can do that, one can do this, one can do that, it gets repetitive. But if you can't think of, if you want to use third person and you can't think of how to do it, put one where you would put I. Try that at first, and then the rest will just come naturally. So one can easily catch a cab anywhere on the Strip, but may have trouble in Summerlin. You see how this is, and not only is this third person, this second example here, oops. Not only is this third person, it also applies to everyone in that situation. This is specific for one person, and that's the person who is speaking. I can easily catch a cab anywhere. If I change it to third person and say, one can easily catch a cab anywhere, that means anyone. That's everybody. Whereas this one is referring to only whoever this person speaking is. So not only is third person more objective in appearance, it also has a broader focus. It applies to everyone who's reading it. I is applying to the person only to the person who is actually speaking it. So there you go. I'll show you this one too. And then we'll go ahead and just stop for today's lesson. So with GGC's budget woes, I'm not sure if I can even afford another tuition hike. Now, I used this as an example a few years ago when we did tuition was raised. Okay, again, this one right here, this only applies to the person who's saying it. He or she is not saying, well, everybody isn't good, or some of us, or most of us, or many of, they're saying this is just only applying to this person. So it doesn't, it has an extremely limited scope. But if we change it to third person, it has a much broader appeal, a much broader audience. With GGC's budget woes, some students aren't sure if they can afford another tuition hike. Do you see how that's much more effective when you're talking about something like this? This just applies to one person, the way it's written. It literally is only applying to one person. Now we have about 14,000 students. This is a lot better to get a point across. This would be, the second one would be much more effective because it applies to some of 14,000. This applies to one of 14,000. Do you see the appeal? Do you see the reach, the scope? So that's where third person can become much more effective when you're trying to persuade. But for this review, you can use first person. You can use third person. Just don't use second person. So say no to second person. All right? Thank you. Get those in. Again, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Yours are due on the 26th. And Tuesday, Thursday, your drafts are due on the 27th. You can either email them directly to me as attachments, or you can send them to me through D2L. Either way works just as good. The only thing, please don't send it as a PDF. If you send it as a PDF, I have to, it makes it much more difficult for me to give you effective feedback. So save it as a docx, and y'all know you already have Microsoft Word right where your email is. All right, so again, you can text me, call me, email me, any questions you have, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. So enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you guys next time.